This 3D view of an ancient city is incredible, but your eyes are always going to be drawn to the centerpiece of the ancient city portal. You cannot have an ancient city without one of these, and so it's clearly essential, but the actual purpose of it has still yet to be discovered. It's been confirmed to be a mystery by developers, but we don't know what the answer is. We do know the answer to questions like why is mud grey despite it not being in the real world, but this, alongside a host of other questions from fletching tables to fireflies to the wild update toggle, are just things we don't know yet, and I think it'd be useful to go through what we know about each of these big mysteries of 1.19 because they're perhaps the wildest part of the wild update. With that said, the first one is really important. It's short, but the fletching table. It was added in 1.14 with a promised use coming in the next update, and the next update came, but obviously the Buzzy Bees update wasn't a full one. So 1.16 came along and they gave the smithing table a use, which was for netherite. It was a really clever use for it, and the fletching table still had nothing. This is something I quite like about Minecraft when it's working effectively. They try to tie in old updates to new updates and give really great uses to old features. You know, features can age well in that way. However, it's now been 5 updates since the fletching table was added with a promised soon-to-be functionality, and we still have no idea what they were even initially planning, let alone whether it was cancelled or if they're delaying it or if it ties into the next update theme. What is going on here, and when will we know the answer? We don't know right now, but I would love if it tied in to whatever new dimension maybe comes through a portal. Speaking of portals, by the way, I think it's important to talk about the natural world, and archaeology is perhaps the most hyped feature that Minecraft has ever unveiled in terms of how boring it sounds if you describe it versus how interesting it sounds if you see some gameplay. Wow, there are structures hidden below your world with hidden pottery pieces you can collect and make jars from, or there's like hidden little diamonds and emeralds you can find down there. All sorts of loot that actually make the existing world mean something more, but it never did come. And we've heard from various developers saying that actually the version of archaeology we saw at Minecraft Live was just not very interesting in the game, but we've heard that they do want to do it in the future, but we've seen nothing from it since. We know Ulraf, the developer whose baby this project sounded like, has been working on lots of other things since then, so it's not like it's been a 2-year process of developing archaeology. However, when does archaeology come to the game? Is it planned for the game? We don't know yet, and that is something that is interesting because this is the Caves and Cliffs arc coming to an end, right? 1.20 will not be updating Caves and Cliffs anymore, so wherever archaeology does fit in, they're gonna have to fit it into a brand new update theme that is maybe unrelated, which makes it seem even less likely. Speaking of finishing the Caves and Cliffs arc, there's lots of interesting parts of this update that are related to the generation of the world or new blocks, but there's also a brand new menu screen for some people. This is one of the oddest things to me because Minecraft was so hyped about this menu, but also they were so cautious about rolling it out. It was first only available for some platforms, for some people on those platforms in the beta, and so within that subsect, they started to roll it out. Then everyone in the beta got it, and then for some reason when 1.19 rolled out, instead of giving it to everyone, they gave it to some of Minecraft for Windows, but not most platforms, and also not everyone playing Minecraft for Windows. This is the weirdest way to roll something out, and although it is what big tech platforms tend to do with new designs so that everyone's not complaining all at the same time and they can test bugs, etc., it's just so strange to me that depending on how you're playing Minecraft right now, you could have one of 2 different menu screens, and they decided that was what they wanted. Again, it's so strange. The only thing I can think of, given that we know that marketplace buy rates are really important, and that's why they do so much testing with the home button, the marketplace button on the home screen I should say, is that maybe they're testing the new menu versus the old menu to see which generates more marketplace clicks and sales, etc. But even that seems pretty far-fetched. That sounds almost conspiratorial, just like the next thing, because if you go to start a new world with either menu screen, you'll have the option to toggle, like experimental gameplay, things that aren't in the main game yet, and one of those experimental toggles is called the Wild Update. That's right, you can try out the Wild Update early if you really want to, and the easiest explanation for this doesn't fully explain it because, maybe they just forgot, but if they forgot, this is such a big thing to forget about. If you're going through all the effort of making only some people have the new menu, and you're going through all the effort of bug fixing an entire update, how does no one spot that there's a Wild Update toggle? So if we assume that the easiest solution actually isn't very easy, then it must just be that because there are still bug fixes coming out for 1.19 that have things like, that might include spectator mode or allies or all of these different things they're technically working on for 1.19, even if they didn't make it in. Maybe they're still calling it the Wild Update experimental set of features, because it's not like it's, experimental for 1.20 or anything. And yeah, I'm very confused. By the way, similar thing, because at least some people got the new menu screen and everyone can see the Wild Update toggle, even if they're confused by it. What about the new touch controls? That was a really hype feature for 1.19. As it turns out, the plan was not to roll it out for that update, and it's weird because if they rolled out the new menu screen for some players only, why not try the same with touch controls to get more feedback? The answer is we don't really know as end players, just like how we don't really know what was going to happen with Fireflies. What were they really going to do? We know that there was they were going to be included for a little bit there, even after they weren't going to be eaten by frogs. Minecraft were confirming that, yeah, the Fireflies would come at some point, it's just they weren't going to be related to the frogs, because if real frogs eat some species of Fireflies, they die. It's a big thing we've spoken about a billion times. But so that means that they had a plan for them, maybe? I mean, that's the only way I can take it. Were they going to add a pointless ambience mob and then decided against it at the last minute? No, I think it's possible that they had something planned that entire time and then didn't get around to it or decided it was a bad idea. I think it's possible they were searching for a use, but I also think it's just as likely that one was planned that they decided against at the last minute. So the Fireflies, what were they going to do? What was going to be their purpose? Because even when frogs were going to eat them, is it even likely they were going to poop out frog lights? Would that have made any sense if just naturally walking through a swamp you'd find frog lights everywhere? I don't think it does. So that means they always had something different to the frog light and the magma cube plan. And so what was it going to be, Mojang? Was it just going to be breeding? Was it going to be anything else? I need to know, just like how I need to know about the portal. Okay, we're finally here. I have a lot of things to say about this, and I think it's important to get those current feelings out there. So the Ancient City portal is a portal. That is undeniable, and the Ancient City portal is a required part of the Ancient City, and even King B Dogs, the major developer behind the Warden and the Ancient City, has confirmed that he likes that there is a mystery around it. That's not confirming he has locked down the goal that it's going to be, the thing that it's going to do, but it does confirm that he likes that people are speculating, because he thinks that's a great part of Minecraft, that speculating about the future is a really fun thing, and speculating about a future that would never come would be silly. So there is something that's coming from the Ancient City, and so our key points of information about what it could be is that one Ancient City portal per city definitely has significance. Sure, it's essential that it has one, but you only ever get one. There is one of these giant mega structures per mega structure that it's a part of. Also, there's Disc 5. This is a disc which has a lot of interesting things going on, but it's only found around the Ancient City, and so it probably relates in some way to their plan or their goal for the dimension, or they're just trying to show, like, yeah, some stuff's going to happen on the other side of that. Who knows which way around that goes. Then also, it's worth mentioning the Skulk, which is exclusively found in the Deep Dark, where the Ancient City lies, looks suspiciously like a lit end portal. There is a very similar link there. And then finally, the Hardened Deep Slate, which was initially only found in the portal and is entirely unmovable, is still only found in the portal and is unmovable. And like I mentioned earlier in this video, we've kind of moved away from caves and cliffs as a theme. After 3 updates in 2 years, they're willing to move on to something else, we can assume. We won't know more until whenever that announcement is, which could be more than a couple months from now. History tends to imply that it's going to be at least a couple of months. And so the answer to this question could get a lot clearer after that theme comes out. I mean, we know that Jeb wants to update the existing dimensions before adding a new one. We got the Nether update in 1.16, and so the End update could be 1.20. If that's the case, that would be the logical tie-in off this feature, in my opinion. I think that maybe it could be a link to the End Islands that could take you into the End Islands and then back out to the overworld, because right now there is the weird issue. If you're way out 5,000 blocks away from the center, you have to catch a teleport into the center, then, one of these, which is really annoying to do. Then from the center, you have to walk, then go into your portal, and then all it will take you to is your respawn point. There's no actual link between the End and the overworld. There's a link between the End and your spawn point, and there's a link between End portals, which only spawn in quite rare and, harder to find places as you go further out. So having a fixed link link between the end islands and the overworld in a point-to-point way that maybe would only work after you defeat the Ender Dragon, or maybe they could just make the assumption that, yeah, if you're going through one of these portals to fight the dragon just isn't going to be worthwhile, go get the Ender Pearls. If you want to do it, sure, bridge 1,000 blocks, but just like how you can go to the End Islands without fighting the dragon, it's what they know most people won't do because most people prefer the easier way of a free teleport once you defeat the dragon. Also, going back to the overworld is important, so maybe they'd make some incentives for that to be possible. That would make sense if they are updating the end, but if they're leaving the end to the side for a while, because the end is a pretty nice dimension. I mean, with the End Islands and the End Center, it's not their highest priority when you compare to other mechanics which have been long neglected. They could really enhance farming, or they could really enhance, like technical or redstone. There's so many parts of the game that could do with an entire overhaul, so if they leave that behind entirely, then it's also possible the Ancient City portals are meant to just be linked to each other. Or the more fun option is, what if there's some form of threat that's on the other side of that? The Warden is called the Warden because he's guarding this ancient city, and so this ancient city believes something came out of this portal that was worth having these super strong guardians for. Guardians so strong they've outlived their civilization by a very long time, judging by the state of this place. Seriously, look around this place. It's filthy. But, so judging by the fact that this has outlived them for so long, it's such a big threat that they needed the strongest mob that Minecraft has discovered yet. And so could it be some raid-based thing? Could it be some horrific mob that comes out? It's just a boss that you fight down there, something that links into some other part of the game. Who knows for sure? But also, just as equally, we could say that it's a brand new dimension. The reason I think a brand new dimension is possible, despite Jeb's earlier comments about not adding a new dimension till they've updated the End and the Nether, is because Jeb does make a lot of decisions and he's up there, but it's not to say he can't change his mind, and it's also not to say that a lot of the new hires that have been promoted, Lady Agnes, for instance, is now the vanilla Minecraft game director. It's not to say that someone like that can't make the decision to say, yeah, you think it's a good idea to update the End and Nether first. I would say after the Nether update, the End and Nether are both great dimensions and people are hankering for a new one. What would be the best way to excite players again? A new dimension. And that seems far-fetched, but Jeb said at the time that his plan was for one major content update a year, and we've had one every 6 months for the last little bit now. So yeah, it's very hard to say with 100% certainty what Minecraft's going to do. I mean, even if we go a step further, we can say, how do we even know they're going to make something from the portal? What if it's purely decorative? What if the mystery is the enjoyable bit? And you could totally see that being their goal too. There's just too many maybes and too many mysteries and too many what ifs for us to be entirely certain. I know I could take the popular game theory route and say, I know of 100% certainty based on my information, but instead I like to give you the real skepticism, which is to say that, yeah, there's lots of different possibilities, something to do with the End Island, something to do, the link between the Skulk and the End is quite high, something to do with a new dimension or a raid, something to do with nothing. They're all just as possible as each other depending on how you see things. I would say my personal bet is on something to do with those End Islands. I feel as though, even though they could just add a new dimension, they could add a new raid style boss, I think some way to link the End Islands to the mainland is a smart idea. Would explain why Skulk has such a End characteristic to it, in my opinion. I think they're a perfect fit for each other. And honestly, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to go to the End and like cover it in Skulk or something like that. Like, I feel like the two themes fit each other just a bit too complementarily, and also the fact that, strong boss with very different opposite intentions. I think there's so much in similar here, but with that said, I hope you'll enjoy this video. I want to hear your theories in the comments down below, because I love hearing people's thoughts about this. No matter what is coming in the end, I think the real success is how it's one of those features that really captures the imaginations of players, and so I want to hear what your imagination is captured and saying, and also let it free. It needs to go wild. Speaking of things that should go wild, this update, am I right? I hope that you've been enjoying the videos I put out the last couple of weeks. If you haven't seen them, there's a link in the description that takes you to my channel, and it shows you the videos that have been posted there. A lot of people complain about missing videos, and the easiest way to check is just to click a channel and find it out that way. Anyway, I hope you'll enjoy this, because I'll see you next time. Goodbye.